4 months. 4 months I've been testing iPhone cases to make this one video. The day I got my iPhone 17 Pro on launch day, I started reaching out to brands to ask if they'd be open to giving me some cases of theirs to test out so I could make this video. Thankfully, more than enough, as you guys can see, brands showed up. So here we are. These are the iPhone 17 Pro Case Awards, where I will award a fictional award to my favorite case in each category. Now, before we talk about this 3-card case from Bellroy, I do want to mention if any of these cases at any point in this video are the right ones for you, I do have links down in the description and the top comment where you can purchase them. They do give me a small commission as it helps me out in making these videos. So let's get right into it. Now, you remember all those wallet cases that used to flip up and around the screen? Well, those are gone. Now you have these pretty cool cases that add a little bit of bulk to them. It allows you to be able to have up to 3 cards in this Bellroy specifically. You can pull 3 cards out of there and keep your cards in there and not even have to carry a wallet with you, which is a pretty cool feature. Now, this is a fantastic looking case. This is leather. I'm gonna bet it's genuine leather. They don't say on their website, but that's fine. It does feel good, and I'll be honest, you're not gonna have this case much longer than 2 years anyways. So it is a fantastic looking case. It's easy to access all 3 of those cards. You can pull the top one out without the bottom ones. It doesn't look quite as weird as like having a MagSafe wallet on the back of your phone, of which, by the way, the biggest downside to this is there's no more MagSafe. However, that is not the only downside. The other downside being this does add bulk to your phone, unfortunately, and it's something that you can't shed at any point in time. A lot of the MagSafe wallets, you can just throw that into your other pocket. And with losing the MagSafe, you also lose the wireless charging capabilities of your phone, which is also a really big bummer. So if you are wanting to optimize your wallet, you might actually want to go with a MagSafe wallet if you're somebody that wants to be able to have a little less bulk in your pocket. So this wins out in the best wallet case, which leads me to the award for the best leather case, which is the Sandmarc Pro leather case. The reason behind that is this is full grain leather, which means it is going to patina like a high-end grain leather, which is awesome. It feels much better in the hand than a lot of the other cases out there. And I really like its camera bump. Its camera bump has just very, very kind of chunky kind of style to it. It's not smooth and it just feels really cool. It is full aluminum right here, and I've been really, really impressed with how this looks and how it works. I do also have to mention that the buttons on here all feel really, really good. They kind of relay that clickiness that the phone is intended to have. The biggest downside to this case that I found when I was using it is you can see little scratches right there. They're a little bit bigger than I would like to have in a case, and the reason behind that is because I was using this in my clamp that holds my phone, and anytime you would take it out of the clamp, it would kind of give it a big gash. It would try to peel up the leather on this right here. As you can see, it kind of peels up a little bit, so I'm a little bit worried about the durability of it long term, especially if you are somebody like a creator, which is a bit weird considering Sandmarc, that's kind of their thing. Now, this actually wins out in 3 different categories for me. This is the ESR clear case. This I rate as the best for kickstand, best clear case, and the best slim case. It is one of my favorite budget cases. It may not be quite as cheap as the Neuron we talked about earlier, but it is a screaming deal for what it is. This kickstand right here, I have found to be much more reliable than its rugged counterpart that we'll talk about in a moment. The clearness on it, which is the biggest issue for most people, has not started to yellow, even though I have used this one significantly. And you actually can see the phone on the inside pretty well, which is pretty cool. Now, the biggest downsides to it is kind of the plastic style. It doesn't have independent buttons, so you're not going to get the clickiness you normally would have. And again, just like a lot of these cases, there is a minimal protection in the corners. There's no real added protection to it whatsoever. So this again is just going to be for your basic drops, nothing really much more. Now, this is the winner for the best cheap case. This is the Peakzooc Neuron series MagSafe phone case. Now, this is a clear style case. You can see the phone through it, but it does kind of add a few more kind of design elements that I do like to the phone. Peakzooc in general kind of has this robotic styling to it. You can actually see right here, this is their MagSafe mount for your desk that I actually use also. But outside of its styling, this is a very budget case. You do still get independent buttons, which I do like. Not every single cheap case out there gives you independent buttons, but in this case it does. As for upsides, this is probably one of the cooler cases that I have seen, especially for the price point. point. It is relatively inexpensive, making it a really good budget price point. And I actually do kind of like the styling. Not every one of Peakzooc's products are my cup of tea, but this is pretty minimalist in its own, especially on the silver dummy iPhone that I'm using in this video. Now, as for the real only downside I have on this is it really, doesn't add a ton of protection to your phone. As you can see, there's not much for bumpers in there. This is a very kind of thin case that has some give to it. So this isn't going to add a ton of coverage to your phone, but probably just enough for basic drops and that kind of stuff, but not much more than that. I probably wouldn't be chucking this across the room or anything. Speaking of chucking a phone across the room, even though I do not recommend doing that even in this case, this is my favorite and best rugged case that I have used. It also has a really, really good and respectable price point on it. It is a dual layer case, so it has two different pieces. There's the rubber kind of insert on the inside, and then a hard plastic on the outside. This is also a relatively inexpensive case, which is pretty cool. And that double layer protection gives a lot of protection if you are going to be dropping this case all over the place. And it also kind of has this little dust shield right here to be able to keep dust out of your charging port, which is nice. There are plenty of different color options. This is my orange. Orange is my favorite color. And honestly, it just has everything you could want out of a rugged iPhone case. The biggest downside I have with this one has to be this kickstand though. You can actually hear this thing is rattling around. We actually were sent out another one of these that one of my other testers used, and this did break. And I have no doubt, honestly, probably every single one of these kickstands is probably going to break at some point, so I wouldn't even bother using it. But outside of that, this is a great case. I just wouldn't use that kickstand, honestly. Before we get into the final set of my favorite cases for my iPhone 17 Pro, if you found this video at all helpful, maybe think about subscribing to our channel, where we fully test out gear like this. Now, back to the video. Which brings me to this phone case, which is the best phone case for photographers. Now, I'll be honest, the phone case itself is nothing really to write home about. It's a pretty basic phone case. It's got a good enough grippiness. The buttons are nice and clicky, really not any problems, but it is still, honestly, a pretty cheapo case. It's not that big of a deal, nothing too special. It does have MagSafe, just like pretty much every other case, except for the Bellroy earliest in this video. But what makes it special is this. This is essentially a professional grade camera lens that what you do is you take it, and these little mount points right here, you just can pop it in, screw it on, and then you have a lens. This is I think a 35mm lens right here, and it gives you professional grade photography, which is pretty cool that no real other cases on this list can be able to do. So if you are a photographer that does plan on putting professional style lenses on your case, you might as well just opt for this one and you can start going with that. Which leads me to another weird case. This is the winner for the best keyboard case, which if you've never seen that before, and by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, this is actually a dummy iPhone. This is not a real iPhone. I am filming with my normal iPhone, and you can see it just goes in there, slides in. And the idea behind it is that basically it allows for complete screen real estate here. So it gets rid of your digital keyboard there, and then you can just type. It's pretty cool. The keyboard on it is actually pretty high end. I used to have this for the 15 Pro, and this is an upgraded version. It is better than the older one, starting with the 17 series, and I am really impressed with that. As for the protection, it's, minimal. There's not much there. But the actual keyboard portion of it is really well thought out. And one of my favorite things is it adds a command key, which means you can add shortcuts to your iPhone in a similar way to what you could have on your Mac. So it acts as basically a command key. So you can do Command F and it'd find something on the page for you. Now, outside of its price point, the biggest downside to this keyboard case is its length. You can see actually right here, this is about where the normal bottom of your phone is. So it is adding about that much length to it, which is a little bit awkward in your pocket. But the other thing that's awkward is it also kind of throws off your kind of balance of the phone. It's a little bit heavier on the phone side of it and a little bit lighter here. So it is a little bit more awkward to hold in your hand. I consider this a case that's more meant for somebody that's going to take this off at times and use a normal case and then switch to this when they're kind of in their creator mode and needing to do creator things using like Instagram or different social medias to be able to work on it when they want the whole screen available to them. Now, the winner here is for the best styling. This is the Alumu A17 Slim. I think it's a fantastic looking case, which is why it's won this award. But outside of that, there are some other pretty cool features. Like this right here is an aluminum surround that goes around your camera bump, and it makes it so it dissipates the heat. I don't know if you know this, that's why this camera bump is so big in the 17 Pro, is because a lot of the processing power is happening behind this bump right here. And so it does get hotter than a lot of the other places in the phone, and so that aluminum does dissipate heat, meaning you can run your phone a little bit harder for longer. I also appreciate that this does have pretty significant drop coverage for how slim this case is. As you can see on the inside, you do kind of have little additional rubber bits there. It does still have MagSafe, just like every other case pretty much on here. And it overall adds a pretty good amount of protection considering how slim the case is. The only real downside to this case that I've seen really comes down to how easy these buttons are to press. I'm constantly accidentally pressing like the power button or these volume buttons just because it makes it just too easy to press, which is a bit of a bummer. This has to be the most polarizing case I have ever seen and ever used and ever created content around, and that is the Arc Pulse case, and this is my favorite and the best minimalist case I have ever used. And the reason behind that is, well, it protects really what's needed and doesn't protect what's not needed. Now, sure, all of the other cases on this list do protect probably better than this case, but where do you drop your phones most? On the corners. And that is where it's protected, and as you can see, it also bumps outwards. So if you drop it flat down on the corners or any of that kind of stuff, it is going to protect it. Maybe not if it's on gravel where it could still kind of poke the sides, but it does protect it on all different sides. And then you can see it also bumps up just a little bit against the screen here. So if you do face down screen on the ground as well, unless of course it's gravel, you are protected as well. I have dropped my phone quite a few times with this case on, and I have not run into problems at all. But because of it, you can actually hold your phone like normal. You can actually feel the aluminum and actually see the case that you spent over $1,000 on, and I really do like that. It also does not slip off like you would assume it would. I have never had this case fall off in my pocket or any of that kind of stuff. It is pressure fit on and does work well. And to be honest, each of these is milled out of a block of aluminum, and this has to be the highest quality feeling cases I have ever used. But not everybody's going to want this case. I can't recommend it to everybody because a lot of people are going to freak out about it. They're not going to be happy having their phone quite so out in the elements, and so I can't recommend it as my top case because of that. And then number two is, I think it's slightly pushed up the glass on my phone. Now I'm filming with the phone that it did that on, but basically right here, this is pressure fit. And I think what was happening is this portion right here was pushing on that glass right there, and it made it so there's a little lip in between the glass and the metal aluminum body. And so I think that is permanent. I think it did cause a little bit of damage to my phone. I can't even necessarily damage, but it maybe changed my phone a little bit past what the manufacturer intended. I did have somebody else comment on one of my other videos, and they confirmed that happened on theirs as well, so that is a bummer. Which leads me to my last and final case on this list, and it is the best overall iPhone 17 Pro case that I have ever used. This is the Mouse Limitless case with the Walnut on it. The reason behind that is the buttons on this thing are incredibly nice. It makes it so that it shows just as clicky as the actual iPhone was, so it doesn't hide any of that. The wood on this case feels really, really good and makes it extremely unique in comparison to a lot of the other lesser cases out there. I also really like that, as you can see right here, this lip does raise up right there. However, it also tapers down in the middle of the case. And what that means is you still get to be able to swipe easily right here, and the case does not impede it, but you do still get the protection of a higher lip on either side of the phone for the face down drops. The case also does not feel cheap, even though it is plastic. They have a really good kind of textured feel to it, so it's easy to hold in the hand and does not feel like cheap plastic. You have some pretty cool drop protection that's very specific in the corners here, and it protects it all around. And the MagSafe on this is probably one of my favorite. It feels extremely grippy, and it also doesn't show the little ring thing that a lot of every other MagSafe MagSafe case out there does. The only issue and the only reason I would not recommend this to anyone is its price. This thing is expensive for a plastic case, and so if you can buy that case, I would highly recommend this. And again, if you want any of these phone cases, I do have links down in the description and the top comment. They are paid links, and it'd be super helpful if you guys decided to use that. And I will also keep any coupon codes that I have available for any of these brands in the top comment and in the description as well. And with that said, as we talked a little bit about wallets, if you are interested in getting a wallet for yourself to be able to throw on the back of your phone or just keep in your pocket, I have a pretty awesome video on the screen right now that might help you out with that.